to turn on your camera? And oh yes, Hazel, thank you for restarting the recording. You can raise your hand and if you'd like to turn on your camera, but what surprised you in the answers you discussed? Were there any surprises? Oh, your camera and mice are disabled. Oh, let's see. We need to do some tech fixes. Okay. So yeah, everyone is, the camera and mice are disabled.
It looks like Hazel's working through to elevate everyone to presenter. So.
Okay. And Kenneth, maybe you can, or Nancy, give us okay that you are live. Okay, that you're back.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, wonderful. All right. Appreciate everyone's patience with our all virtual meeting. So, all right, great. We're back online. So, would someone like to start us out on a reflection on what surprised you and the answers you discussed? Maybe not surprised, but interested you. Interested you.
This is
go ahead.
This is Peter Bakken. What interested me or surprised me was I think we should have done this exercise when I was first coming on as a EQB board member, because I learned quite a bit.
Oh, wonderful.
I think what surprised me as a newer member to the board is that there are multiple ways to look at this, right? There's kind of this legalistic way. What do the statutes say? What's the purpose of the board? And then there's this more feelings, touchy feeling. I don't know how to describe it, but not legalistic, but providing a forum so people can express their feelings and things like that. It's like different than the legalistic definition. So
yeah.
Like.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Kenneth. Someone else, what surprised you or interested you?
I found it interesting to hear from, well, all members of our group, but the different types of perspectives that came to respond to those questions from our public board members versus our agency folks. You can certainly, see the different lenses on things and what value the EQB brings and that sort of thing. So I thought that was interesting. So I was glad to have the mix in the small groups.
Sure. Yeah. And when you bring this many people together, yes, the different perspectives, different lenses. So thank you for that. Others, what came up for you?
So Kim, are we going to go through the questions too? So at this point, you're just asking for high level?
Just for high level. We're not going to go through the questions. We're going to collect those. And we're going to collect all of the PowerPoints. So we've got your comments documented, but this is just kind of a reflection and an overview of what happened in the rooms.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think one thing that's sort of highlighted with what others have said already is that, when you think about it, about who benefits from having this, there's a lot of entities that benefit that are beyond those that are actually represented on the EQB, and it's kind of helpful to think about how the EQB provides a consistent forum for members of the public, for advocacy groups, for applicants, for others who are interested in the work to see the state agencies, so like the public members and the government working together. So I think that it's kind of a nice reminder of the value that we all bring and why it's important.
Nice. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. All right. One last call on that question. Any surprise or interests that came out of your discussion that you'd like to share with the group? All right. Well, what gave you energy? Where did you feel like, oh, I'm feeling the energy of this. This is what we do is energizing. Or who we're serving, or kind of any part of this. What gave you energy? In an afternoon after lunch meeting. Paul Nelson, please go ahead.
Well, certainly, consistency doesn't, go forward as something that inspires a lot of energy, but just hearing it come over and over in our group highlighted sort of the importance of having consistent rules, consistent processes, input. So just the repeat of that was something that.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Paul. Go ahead, Sarah.
And my mute button. I was going to say, I think just part of what I found really nice about our discussion is the clear value people place on EQB. There is a, real sense of the work that the EQB matters, and people are engaged in that work and want to, continue to be engaged in that work. And I think, frankly, if you asked average person off the street, that might not be the opinion. If they even know what the EQB is, that might not be the opinion you get. And so I found it very positive and very helpful.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Nancy.
Yeah, kind of the same thing there, but especially when we were talking about the meaningful outcomes and who benefits from EQB, it's kind of like taking a step back and saying, well, what value do we provide? What have we accomplished almost, and kind of a recognition of the accomplishments and why it's good work that we do together.
Thank you. Yeah, which is why it's always like doing a strategic plan, even though it can be challenging to find the time to do it, stepping back and looking back, looking at what's happening today and looking forward, kind of getting those three views can be, yeah, very meaningful. And finding out that you're actually doing more than you thought, perhaps. So were there any concerns that arose in your discussions or as a result of your discussions? Any concerns? Or things that made you stop and go,
It's just Nancy have her hand up.
I was having a hard time lowering my hand and unmuting my mic to let you guys know that I'm having a hard time lowering my hand. Now it's working.
Okay. Did you want to say something? Otherwise I can jump in. Okay. I don't know if it's a concern so much, but one thing that came up in our discussion, which kind of gets at all three of these areas, is, one of the things that is different about Minnesota is the MEPA law and the EQB administering and overseeing and making sure that that's implemented. And I think that can be as a value, it can bring energy. I also think that people have raised concerns about the fact that MEPA exists and that we have this extra regulatory step in Minnesota that is not in neighboring states. And does that put us at an economic disadvantage? I'm just voicing something that has come up. I will also say on the flip side, I think the state of Minnesota overall has benefited, natural resource protection has benefited from having that. but certainly some may say that they have concerns about the number of steps in the regulatory process.
Sure. Anyone would like to tag on to what Katrina said? Yes, I saw 2 hands go up. I think I saw, Ken, did yours go up first? Kenneth, and then Joseph?
I don't know. I'll just go just directly following on that. Yeah, I think those last 2 questions, what meaningful outcomes does the EQB deliver? That one, when we were doing that, I was thinking we do some better than others. And so, because one of the outcomes we listed, I can't remember which one, I remember thinking we don't do that as well as the other ones. And then who benefits from these outcomes, similar to what was just said, that some of the people or groups that are listed, you know, there may be dispute as to whether they benefit or not. So those last 2 seemed a little more difficult than the first 2 questions.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Yeah, Joseph, go ahead.
Sure, thanks. And I appreciate that Kenneth went before me because I essentially wanted to say those same things, and I'll just underscore them that that as a concern, I suppose, the statutory duties that the EQB has are not duties that we pursue very consistently, and some of them I don't know that we pursue adequately, I guess. So that would be in the concern category. Thanks.
All right, you bet. Yeah, and as we look at this, the 6 priority results coming up, some of this may come there. Yes, Paul, go ahead.
I had a thought that, you know, as we were talking about benefited parties, there are some of those from which we get regular feedback. The member agencies are there at the table with us, public members, and there's rather regular feedback to those agencies who are benefited from this. Others, not so much regular feedback. You know, we talked about there's a benefit possibly to the legislature. Now, as a board member, it's inappropriate for the legislature to talk to me. They should talk to the executive director. But is there that feedback, or even the public is benefited and they have a regular opportunity to give input, but are they really engaged? So sort of that whole communication thing with benefited parties is an ongoing effort and should always kind of be a little bit of a concern to make sure we're doing it right, I guess. Came to me.
Sure. And when we talk about strategies in February, that communication may very well come up as a strong strategy aligned with any one of the priority areas. All right, any last comments or thoughts that you'd like to share before we close this activity? All right, we'll certainly appreciate your contributions and insights shared. So let's switch gears a little bit, and we're going to move into providing feedback for the 6 existing priority results or desired income. Oh my goodness, desired outcomes. I have some desired income, but we're talking about desired outcomes. And what our aim here is to gather input on the relevance of the current priority results and whether or not they are representative of the issues that we want to address and the outcomes we want to produce for the next 5 years. So I'm just going to invite Catherine back on. Catherine, is there anything you'd like to say about the priority results before we start the activity?
You know, I was thinking a little bit about the conversation that we were just having, and I think that question of there are some things we do better than others, and starting to think about, I mean, maybe a little bit from a strengths-based perspective. Are there things that we should say, well, we do these better, and so we should do more of them? Or are there ones that are like, well, we don't do these well, and maybe they don't need to be done? That's a little bit where my head just went in terms of what you all were saying and how that might feed into our, priority results and what we might choose to move forward from there. So I think what I'm really interested in hearing is what some of those big picture things are, how you all feel about some of those big picture outcomes as we look to refine and to make things so they flow from mission to outcomes to some specific actions and strategies.
All right, great. Thanks, Catherine. So let's go to the next slide. So I want to stay as a large group for just a little bit before we go into our second set of breakouts. And first, I want to review the 6 results. So apologies, but we are going to read this slide. Carrie's going to help me. We're going to read out the 6 priorities just so you can see them and hear them. So I'll start. The first priority is that the EQB fosters innovative policy development that balances Minnesotans' environmental quality, public health, economic vitality, equity, societal quality of life, and sustained natural resources.
And the second is the EQB provides leadership on priority emerging environmental issues by identifying emerging issues, convening conversations, and deliberating policy issues.
The third one is EQB's environmental review process is transparent, accountable, efficient, and creates and sustains a healthy environment and strong economy for Minnesota.
The fourth is Minnesotans are engaged in policy conversations and diverse underrepresented groups are actively included and considered in policy development.
The fifth one is the EQB is a trusted partner with state agencies in the collaborative work of enhancing Minnesota's long-term environmental quality.
And the sixth is the EQB provides support to local governments on environmental review and the implementation of environmental policies and programs.
Okay. So first, are there any questions of clarity on those? Any questions of clarity? Okay, and just to note that when we go back into our breakout rooms, we're going to have the group working with Kim Knuckles facilitating is going to focus on 1 and 2. Catherine's group is going to focus on 3 and 4. And Rebecca's group is going to focus on 5 and 6. So we'll have some questions and we'll get to that in a minute, but we're going to spend a little more time with this. We've got 6 separate polls and we want to kind of assess your thinking around each priority result through a series of questions. So Carrie, I'm wondering if you can launch the first poll, and this is just for board members only. So if you're not a board member, you can use the X in the upper right-hand corner. And what we're going to do for each priority result is go through and kind of do an impact assessment. So is this one easiest for us to do and fit within our current resources? Is it most valued by our clientele or most responded and valued? Is this one that gets the most immediate visible results? Is this one that has the most long-lasting results or has provided the most significant long-term benefits? Or is this one that has the most potential for improvement or attention? So you can select more than one, and we're just going to look. We're going to look at each one and see kind of what rises to the top, and we're going to mark it on our visual that we were just looking at. So if you're a board member, you can choose more than one, but for this first priority, the EQB fosters innovative policy development. Which one of these is most aligned with this result? Right, and I think we've got about 14 or 15 members on, so we'll kind of watch the numbers. Right now we've got 50%, the most long-lasting results are long-term benefits. We have about 6 people voting, so.
Kim, you said board members, but I think tech reps or proxies can feel free to vote too. If your commissioner's not here, it's just a poll, it's not a decision. You feel free to vote.
Thank you, Catherine.
Is this like a poll that pops up within Teams or some such?
Yes.
Okay, I think I got the child's table version of Teams here, so I'm not seeing that, but that's okay. Thanks.
Yeah, I
Check
see the box,
chat.
but
See if it's in the chat. If there's not a separate screen that's popping up, check the chat and you should be able to vote there. Okay, so right now, oh, thank you, Nancy. Right now, we've got most long-lasting results or long-term benefits at 46%, followed by most potential for improvement at 26%, most valued by our clientele at 18%, and most immediate visible results 6%. So we've got about 12 responses. Shall we? It looks like we still got some movement, 13 responses. Let's give it one more moment and then we'll publish. And if you're in the chat, you should be able to see the results. And we'll close that in 5.
Can you
4.
read what the options are? Like I see the poll in the chat, but it just gives me the first couple words.
Okay, so the first one is easiest for us to do.
And
The
we're
second-
comparing number 1 to numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5.
No, we're not ranking them against each other. We are, we're not ranking them against each other. We're rather looking for ideas around impact. So we're not looking for consensus, just some initial response. When you think of this priority result, is it one
So it's
that's
like easiest in comparison to what?
Is it easiest for us to do? Is it one that just like is low hanging fruit and we go out there and we do it? It doesn't take it fits within our resources. It fits with our skill set. It fits with our know-how. The second one is
So
most valuable.
like easiest and most, those are like comparative words, right? So what are we
Mhm.
comparing it to?
I would say well, I mean, I guess the ranking that we're doing is not with all 6, but you can be thinking about the 6, but this is just to get kind of a feel, like, is this one that's easy for us to do, or is this one that's really giving us long-term benefit and we really want to hold on to that?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you bet. All right, so were you able to vote then? Joseph, 16 responses. Okay, let's close it at 16. And we should be able to see, is everyone able to see the results of the poll? So we've got 57% for most long-lasting results or long-term benefits. And kind of second most potential for improvement. So let's go back and look at our document. Carrie will pull up the screen in just a minute. So our first one right now, our poll is telling us that this one has the most benefits. And again, this is just kind of a thumbnail of, let's just look at some initial impact. We might find others that have benefits as well. So let's go ahead and launch the second poll. And this is for priority result number 2. And so same question. So the EQB provides leadership on priority emerging environmental issues. Same poll, is this easiest, most valued, most immediate, most long-lasting results or benefits, or most potential for improvement? So we're seeing most valued by our clientele at 40%, tied with most potential for improvement at 40%. We've got 4 responses. All right, most valued by our clientele is leading at 50%, followed by most potential for improvement at 30%. All right, we're at 9 responses. Most valued by our clientele at 61%. We've got 7% for most immediate visible results, 6% for most long-lasting results or long-term benefits. And we're at 14 responses. If we get 2 more responses on that one. All right, we're at 15 responses, and let's try for another moment, and then we'll close that one. And it looks like we're leading that number 2 is the most valued by our clientele. All right, we've got 52%. All right, with 16 responses, and we'll close that poll. And this one is most valued by our clientele. So we'll move that over. Oops. Going on the fly here. That's how we roll. All right, great. Thanks, Carrie. All right, then let's launch the third poll. And this is around environmental review. So same questions. The EQB environmental review process is transparent, accountable, efficient, and sustains a healthy environment and strong economy. How about this one? This is a most valued, tied with most long lasting, almost immediate visible results. We've got 50% leading on that. 33% most valued by our clientele, followed by most long-lasting or long-term benefits at 18%, down to 15. Got 12 responses. 50% most immediate visible results, 14 responses, followed by most valued, so 47%, most immediate visible results. All right. We've got 17 responses on that. So Carrie, on this one, the most immediate visible results at 45%. And we'll go ahead and close that poll. Thanks for publishing that. All right. All right, we're getting there. Number 4, Minnesotans are engaged in policy conversations and diverse underrepresented groups are actively included. How are we doing on this one with our initial impact analysis here? We've got most potential for improvement at 100% right now. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 92%. We've got 6% on most valued by our clientele. We've got 86% at most potential, 87%, 82%. So, Carrie, it looks like 82% is has the most potential for improvement for number 4. Thanks for posting that. All right. We're getting to the finish line here. Number 5, the EQB is a trusted partner with state agencies. Let's see. With state agencies in the collaborative work of enhancing Minnesota's long-term environmental quality. So we've got easiest for us to do is at 66%. Most immediate visible results is at 25. Easiest to do is leading at 66 with 8 responses. We've got 1 for 7% for most long-lasting results or long-term benefits. We're up to 10 for easiest for us to do, 61%. 15 responses, 52. We've got some immediate visible results at 26, most long-lasting at 17. And at 17 responses, it looks like for this one at 52%, it's easiest for us to do for number 4. Thanks for publishing that, Carrie. All right. And finish line, our last poll for number 6. The EQB provides support to local governments on environmental review and the implementation of environmental policies and programs. Easiest, most valued, most visible results. All right, we've got 85% right now, 88% at most valued by our clientele, 23% at immediate visible results, 71% most valued by our clientele, 7% say it's easiest for us to do. We're at 15 responses. So looks like this one is leading at most valued by our clientele. And what did we say that? Most valued number 2, 57%. With 2% for most potential for improvement. So let's close that. Most valued 58%. All right. That concludes the polling portion of our meeting. Thanks for working through that. So nice job. So what is coming through to you as important with this very initial impact analysis? It's very unscientific, but just taking a look at kind of where people's thinking is at. What's coming through to you as important? Interesting that we got a wide spread of all 5 of them across. We have the 2 and 6 getting voted as the most valued. Number 1 is most benefits on policy development. Environmental review is visible results. Now we had a high percentage on number 4 of opportunity for improvement. And that the collaborative work is easiest. Any thoughts in looking at this or kind of considering that analysis? And what's the significance as we kind of look at these? And we're going to spend some time in our small groups again, looking at these more carefully. What stands out to you?
This is Tom, and I'll just say kind of what stands out to me is even in our small group, we talked about kind of that tangible thing of the environmental review process versus maybe the intangible concept of, a discussion about an issue is there's a value to that, but I think it's harder for people to wrap their hands around it. And I think what this shows is kind of those more tangible things. The environmental review process seem to resonate with people more.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Tom. Others, what do you see here, building off of what Tom said? Does it align with what you would expect, or do you disagree with some of them? You might have voted in the other direction.
So this is Katrina. I'll say I'm not surprised. I think it's good that we're honest with ourselves about what we're good at and what we can be better at. I also think, at least within the regulatory agencies, we have staff whose job it is to do environmental review. And they work really closely with the EQB, and that's their full-time job. So that area is an area that I think, we know what to do. We know who to talk to. It comes at a regular cadence. The other things are, not intermittent, but not as regular, and they require like more creativity and more innovation, I think. And so those are naturally going to take more time and are harder. So I think that's coming out in the results.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you, Katrina. Others, what are you seeing here? What are you taking from this initial impact analysis? Building off what you've heard already, or just like, All right. Well, I know it's more fun to talk in a small group than it is in a large group. So let's not delay in getting us into breakout rooms. If Carrie, if you can go to the next slide. So what we're going to do in this round of the breakouts is we're going to go over 3 questions. So like I said, each group is going to be responsible for a different set of priority results. And you're going to have the same facilitator and scribe, and you're going to discuss these questions. So is this priority result still a way we want to work given the vision and the next 5 years? And we've got a copy of that vision on your PowerPoint slide, so you can take a look at that. And then why or why not? And then the second question, does this priority result align with your mission conversations? Why or why not? And then 3 is, what would you keep, drop, or change to this priority result to update it for this next planning cycle? So for this exercise, you're going to have 45 minutes. So this will take us to about 3:30. So plan on 20 to 25 minutes for each result. Your facilitator will help with time. And we'll go back into our breakout rooms. Are there any questions before you go back into your discussion groups? Everyone clear? Okay, so 45 minutes. We'll see you back here at about 3:30. Have a good discussion, and Carrie, take it away.
All right, the rooms are opening, so everyone should start moving over.
Thank you.